Welcome back, everybody. I've broken out today's video into two parts for you. If you want to see just the tractor, it's at $17.25, or just the gold, that's at the beginning. When I woke up this morning, our bathroom lights were kind of doing a disco thing. Somewhere out there, I can only imagine there's a squirrel across the lines doing the 60 cycle shuffle. But anyhow, after a few hours, it cleared up. Well, if you remember from last video, we ran a bucket of dirt through our trommel sluice combination, and then we took all the stuff that came out of the sluice and ran that across our shaker table. So we basically have three samples. This is a mystery sample. I don't know where the hell it came from. We'll test it just to make sure it doesn't have any gold in it. But here's the irons we got out of our outlet tray from the trommel. We had a couple of magnets underneath and it picked out the iron. We'll make sure it doesn't have any gold in it. So that'll be sample one. And here's our shaker table output. And this is what we got off of the gold cube, our sluice. So we'll test all three of these samples and see what we get. As a matter of fact, we have 4 samples we're going to test if we include the mystery sample. The thing I don't like about doing mystery samples is that if you do find out, let me get this out of the way, these tractor parts. Anyhow, if you do a mystery sample, the problem is that you don't know where you got it, so you can't go back and get more if there was any there. Speaking of mystery samples, here's some leftovers, and I don't know if there's any gold in this solution or not, so we'll do a quick Stannous chloride test. Take a sample, put it in our spot tray, throw some Stannous chloride across it and see if it turns purple. Yeah, I don't really see anything. Okay, well, we'll set it aside and see what develops. Alright, here's our iron. And this is a magnet, and you see it sticks to the bottom of the jar. So it is very laden with iron. And we're going to take a sample from each of our buckets here. Let me find my spoon. And we're going to stir up the buckets just to make sure if there's any gold that is settled to the bottom, that it is now homogeneously mixed in to the sample. Alright, that's sample 2. The iron is going to be sample number 1. And this is the outlet from the shaker table, the stuff that came out in the number 1s. Okay, this is our mystery sample. We're going to pour some water off of it and put that in a beaker. That one we'll just mark it with a question mark. shake it up some here because, you know, people have been shaking the jar with water in it and spinning it around, and the gold should have settled to the bottom. So getting a homogeneous blend of your sample is important, because if not, you may have all your gold at the bottom, and if you sample off the top, you're going to show a negative for gold, and you'll wind up throwing away the sample with the gold still on the bottom of it. So it's important that you mix everything well before you start testing it. Okay, get out the pen and mark the beakers. There's nothing worse than getting halfway through testing multiple samples and then you don't remember which sample goes to where, and you've just totally blown all your test data, because now you don't know where to go back to get more. If you come up with a sample that's really high in concentration of gold, and you tell your people to go out and go get some more from where we got sample 3, and it was actually sample 1, you're sending them to the wrong place to dig. You're going to waste a lot of time, and people are going to get ticked off that there's no gold. Alright, we're going to add a little bit of water, stir things up some, and get ready for the chemical treatment. So we're going to bend down here and get our hydrochloric acid or muriatic acid, easily obtained at most hardware stores. And since we're working with acids, yeah, we're going to put some gloves on for now. Nothing like burning your fingerprints off. The FBI and Homeland Security doesn't appreciate that. Alright, found my little beaker here. So we're going to put in about 50 milliliters of muriatic acid into each of these samples. That should be just about enough. Alrighty, let's close up the acids. You don't want to leave acids sitting around open, because if they get knocked over, it's a heck of a mess. I'm going to rinse out our little beaker just to keep things even, so nobody cries about being shortchanged. We'll give each one the same amount. Shoot it up with a little bit of extra water, it's not going to care. Yeah, this sample that I did, that mystery sample, doesn't have anything in it. I just checked the dish, and it's still yellow. Alright, now we're getting to our nitric acid. This is the fun stuff. Mixture of nitric acid and muriatic acid is aqua regia, which is one of the few acids or combination of chemicals which will dissolve gold. Hydrochloric acid and H2O2, or hydrogen peroxide, will do the trick also, but the hydrogen peroxide solution doesn't work as well in a dirty, contaminated solution. It's okay if you're redissolving refined gold. Alright, we put in about 5 milliliters of nitric acid into each one, and we shall put these up on the burner to start cooking. Put them in the fume hood, because nitric acid puts out some nasty fumes that you do not want to inhale. So either do it outside or in a fume hood. We'll put down our blast shield just to make sure. Now our mystery sample here, We've got it on a separate burner because I can't fit 4 beakers on one burner. So we've turned the fans on inside the shop just to make sure we don't get our lungs full of the nitric fumes. Now this has been cooking for about 20 minutes, and we're going to filter it off now. Filter the solutions and hopefully keep the rest of the dirt in the beaker. If you pour the solution out of the beaker too quickly, it will carry over a lot of the dirt into your filter and will plug up your filter quite rapidly, and you won't get all your solution through there, or you'll have to wait a very long time for your solution to get through the filter and the dirt that's plugging the filter. Now if you're running a vacuum flask like I am and pulling the solution through the filter, you want to make sure you don't put too much of a vacuum on that flask. Not that the flask will implode, but in a vacuum the acids will start boiling off. Now in this sample I put in a stir bar, and you see little gold specks on it. Well, kind of, they're blurry. That's iron pyrite. That doesn't make me happy. That usually means that it's from a low quality sample. We'll rinse this stir bar off. They are reusable and not cheap, so we'll clean it off and set it aside. We'll run a little water through our filter, make sure that we've gotten all of our solution through the filter. A lot of pyrites in here. Yeah. Looking into this beaker, the remnants of this sample here, there's a lot of shiny stuff in the bottom. Unfortunately, it's not gold, it's iron pyrite and mica. We got a lot of that up here, so we have to do quite a bit of testing before we start harvesting large quantities. Swap this out with a dirty rag. Okay, we're going to pour off our sample here into a beaker and do a spot check on it. Rinse out our flask so we don't have contamination in there when we use the flask the next time. So here's our solution. Looks like horse wee, but don't taste it. It doesn't taste good, I'll tell you. Anyhow, we're going to denox this. Going to drop some sulfamic acid in there this time. You can use urea. They both work about the same. Now, being that I did not overnox this solution, it shouldn't need much sulfamic acid. You want to get rid of the nitric acid that's left over, so when you go to precipitate the gold, it doesn't go back into solution once it precipitates. If you have excess nitric in a solution and you put it in your spot plate and do a check on it, it will usually come out positive, although it is a false result. If you try precipitating with SMB and your solution starts getting brown and then goes back to yellow, you have too much nitric in there still. So this is our spot check, or spot plate, and nothing's happening. Now, just for shits and giggles, that is a scientific procedure now. We're going to put in a solution into this upper left corner plate, or upper left corner well. This solution has gold in it. This I know. I created the solution with gold in it. We're going to put in some Stannous chloride in here to make sure our Stannous chloride is working. And look at that. Instantly with one drop. So these other two do not make me happy. They have no reaction whatsoever. And if I do stir them, they will turn clear. We're going to take this Stannous chloride test solution out and put it into a separate jar. Once you do a Stannous chloride test and it turns out positive, put that into a separate jar, because you can redissolve the gold and precipitate it properly. You can't get gold once you've done the Stannous chloride test, and it's gold chloride at that point. It's you can't just melt it back into gold. So you redissolve it in aqua regia and then precipitate it with sodium metabisulfite. Now these are our other three samples. From left to right, 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to put a little bit of sulfamic acid in here to denox. And then we'll follow that up with some Stannous chloride and see what we get. Boom, one drop. No change. Put in another drop. Put 2 drops in this one and 2 drops in the third. No change. Give it a little bit of a stir here. You can see they're mostly just turning clear. That means there's nothing there. So we're going to give all 3 of them a stir with a glass rod and see if there's any difference. No. Clear. Not what we want to see. So I would call this a failure, but being as that we have acquired information or knowledge about the area that we were sampling, I call it it's still a failure. If you don't get gold for your work, it's not good. Anyhow, back to the tractor. Yeah, Billy the Wonder tractor. We've got to figure out a way to put these cylinders on or adapt them. So I took some measurements using some really weird looking tools. Then stood back and scratched my ass and tried to figure out what the hell I'm going to do to adapt these. So I drew up some plans in my CAD program and cut them out with my CNC router, cut them out of wood just to mock them up to see how they fit. So here's my CNC router cutting out my pieces. This is 1/4 inch plywood, and the final result will be cut in 1/4 inch steel. And these machines are fascinating to watch for a while, but being that they're really noisy, it's like as interesting as going deaf while you're watching your toenails grow. It can get quite monotonous. This job took about an hour to cut out. And here's the parts. So we bolted them. We clamped them to the tractor, put a piece of PVC pipe in as a stand-in for our 3/4 inch bolt. And everything looks like it's good. I've got this donut here, which will beef up the hole a bit and make that area 1/2 inch thick. That'll be welded in place. And then a couple of spacers to take up the gap between the frame and the wood. So I ran across this guy, Mike. He's got the Heritage Forge. He's in Palmdale. And he's got a laser cutting machine. And this is really cool. I thought I had something nifty with my CNC wood cutter. But this thing is just whipping through this 1/4 inch plate steel like it's butter. I mean, plasma cutters are nice, but they kind of leave a lot of slag. and the edges are not real smooth, but this thing is, I mean, it's better than having it cut by a bandsaw. The edges are smooth, they're clean, not a lot of slag on them. So right now he's not cutting out my parts. He's cutting out some branding iron pieces. These are Longhorn cattle. But here's the plate that my parts were cut off of. Basically, he just throws a big sheet up on there and does his cutting all day long. And you know, there's very little waste. I was surprised. So here's his card if you want to pause or take a screenshot. Now here are my parts. I was amazed on how accurate and how clean they were. Here's the rest of them. But if you were to sit down and try and cut these by hand this accurately, I would say, buddy, you got, yeah, they're steel. So coming up on the next video, I got myself a toy to put on the tractor. That's why I need to get the tractor going. Got it up here in the trailer. And now we got to get the tractor running so we can throw this on there. It's a wood chipper. So we'll be chipping up some trees. See ya!